Disney just told its Imagineers to scrap their plans for Villains Land and start over. Bigger, bolder, badder. Actually, scratch that last one. Apparently more family friendly. And the internet is not taking that last part well. But after diving into the full report, I think a lot of people are reacting to the wrong things, focusing on the wrong details and missing the bigger picture. Because there's something very important buried in the story that completely changes how you should think about every single one of these leaks. Let's break it all down on this episode of Future World, your crystal ball predicting the future of Disney's parks. I'm James Grosh, your bald host reporting from Bald Mountain, and today we're tackling some Chernobog-sized rumors about Villains Land at Magic Kingdom, which I'd argue is the most anticipated new project Disney has announced. It started a couple of weeks ago with a WDW Magic Forum post by Len Testa of Touring Plans, saying, quote, "I'm hearing the initial plans for Villains Land have been scrapped. Imagineers have been told to think of bigger, bolder ideas. Budget secondary." This definitely got my attention because Len is not one to sensationalize. But we learned a lot more when Drew Taylor of The Wrap dropped a blockbuster report backing up Testa's claim, saying that the plans have changed and that Disney is aiming to deliver something truly unforgettable that fans will love with the budget to back it. So how have the villains' plans changed according to the rumors? Let's start at the beginning. In 2024, Josh D'Amaro announced that Villains Land would have 2 attractions, plus dining, shopping, and entertainment. Taylor's report says that the lineup has expanded to 3 rides, and they look fairly different than what was initially planned. The roller coaster has shifted from a high-thrill Maleficent Coaster shown in the concept art to an Emperor's New Groove family coaster with that famous pull the lever crunk scene. The dark ride is now rumored to be a massive Maleficent indoor boat ride, on the scale of Rise of the Resistance. And the new 3rd ride is possibly an Ursula spinner. Beyond the rides, Imagineers want to emulate the success of Igor, Universal's viral walk-around character at Epic Universe. And a Hades dinner show with Pain and Panic a la the Diamond Horseshoe Review is in the works. But most controversially, the internal reference point for the land has shifted from Epic Universe's Dark Universe, the movie Monsterland, to Isle of Berk, that park's How to Train Your Dragon land. More expansive and, importantly, more family-friendly. Which has caused a lot of pain and panic among fans hoping for something more grown-up and scary. But there's a lot here to actually be optimistic about, although I do have some concerns, including one big red flag. So let's dig our fangs into what all this actually means, starting with the Epic Universe effect, because it's real. Count the references in that report. Dark Universe, Isle of Berk, Igor. Epic Universe is a consistent reference point from Taylor's sources inside Disney. Imagineers have clearly taken notice of what Universal has done with their new park, and they see Villains as their chance to respond to it. This is both predictable and a great thing. Epic Universe is genuinely ambitious and creatively successful. As I laid out in my in-depth review last year, it has some of the best immersive theming I've ever experienced, and captures a lot of the same feelings that I love about going to Disney. So naturally, I think Imagineers want to exceed what Universal Creative has accomplished. It's why I've always said that Disney fans should root for Epic Universe to succeed. Competition means better attractions, better food, better lands, better service, better everything for both Disney and Universal. Without a healthy competitive environment, you get something like Communicore Hall, which is fine as a flex space. They've done some creative things with it, but I think it's the most Bob Chapek project ever in terms of what was promised and what was delivered. As the next CEO, Josh D'Amaro clearly has a different philosophy on parks investment. Disney announced $60 billion of investment into the parks and cruises in 2024. That's talking the talk. Having a Villains Land where he's pushing Imagineers to think bigger and put more budget into it, that's walking the walk. This could be Magic Kingdom's Disney Sea moment, where Oriental Land Company gave Imagineers a giant budget, and the result was arguably the best theme park ever built. And thanks to Epic Universe, it kind of has to be a Disney Sea level moment. I think it would be a bad look if Disney's big response to Epic Universe, which opens 4 to 5 or more years later, doesn't exceed it. Disney needs to outdo Universal here, especially with all the natural comparison points, and I think they know that. Now, the big Epic Universe comparison that everyone is focusing on and freaking out about is going from Darkmoor as the reference point to Isle of Berk. And everyone is really honed in on the family-friendly tone of the How to Train Your Dragon land, which Taylor does emphasize. That initial moody Villains Land concept art was evocative and resonated with fans for a reason. so lots of people aren't thrilled by hearing the words family friendly. I've received quite a few comments saying Disney's already made it worse, but I think this comparison is actually great news. First, let's get this out of the way. Darkmoor was never going to be the right fit tonally for Villains Land. I love Dark Universe. It's so creepy, moody, dangerous, perfect for the Universal movie monsters. But Disney villains are not Universal monsters. Some are scary and evil and downright terrifying, but many are campy and colorful, loud comic relief. Huh? If Disney did a Villains Land that was just like Darkmoor, it would miss a lot of the aspects that really define the best Disney villains, and it would be too harsh of a contrast from everything else at Magic Kingdom. Remember Alien Encounter? That flopped at Magic Kingdom for a reason. The defunct horror attraction was creatively successful, but too terrifying for Magic Kingdom's audience. I'm out of control! If, like the report claims, Disney's goal is to create an unmissable land that itself can extend a vacation, having a land that's too scary for a big chunk of their guests to even enter would be a non-starter. And that would mean less long-term investment for Villains Land. So even before this new article, I was already expecting something that veers more family-friendly than Dark Universe. But I will say this, Isle of Berk is also tonally not right for villains. It's too bright and optimistic and whimsical. It's all about humans and dragons living in harmony. That's not the right story for villains either. It needs to have some edge, some bite to it, and I actually believe that's what we'll get. Here's why. Imagineering's presentation at Destination D23 talked about the land's conjured architecture, specifically referencing the unnerving modernism designs in Barcelona. Plus, Disney legend Andreas Deha has been consulting on the project, and he was the animator behind Gaston, Scar, and Jafar. All villains that move between campy comic relief and downright evil baddie. My hope for the land is that we get a tone that matches that. Something that blends the villainy with the campiness. It should feel distinctly mysterious and eerie, but not too scary for Magic Kingdom's audience of young families. But possibly with pockets that are more sinister and scary than others. Kinda like Nocturne Alley at Universal's Diagon Alley. You can seek it out or avoid it. But here's the most important part that is getting lost in the online discourse. Taylor specifically talks about how Isle of Berk is more expansive than Darkmoor. And anyone who's been to Epic Universe can attest to that. Darkmoor is amazing, and Monsters Unchained is an incredible all-timer ride, but that land is small. It's a massive ride supported by an outdoor coaster, plus some dining, shops, and entertainment. On paper, that's very similar to what was announced at D23 for Villains Land. Berk, on the other hand, has 3 attractions, plus an incredible stage show, a playground, iconic food, merch experiences, great characters, the toothless meet and greet, animatronic dragons placed throughout the land, and a free roaming dragon robot show. It won the Thea, which is the Oscar for theme parks, for a reason. Having Berk as a scale comparison is a great thing, because this makes me think of a Villains Land that feels rewarding to explore, peppered with fun things to discover, like maybe an interactive Iago animatronic, or you go down an alley and there's the magic mirror. Something like that is what I'm hoping for. And if you're liking this breakdown so far, give this video a like and get subscribed for more on the future of theme parks. Let's talk rides, starting with the one that's getting the most backlash. The Emperor's New Groove Family Coaster. Now, I've been on the record on this channel saying that I hope that the Villains Coaster was the chance for Disney to really push a coaster on thrills. Maybe not quite to the level of Velocicoaster or Stardust Racers, but something a step up from Guardians. It feels right for villains, and apparently Imagineers were thinking the same thing. But after chewing on it over the past few days, I do think building a family coaster instead of a high-thrill coaster is probably the smarter play, even if it's not what I personally would want. Let's really unpack that term, family coaster, because everyone saw it and freaked out. The article compares it to Slinky Dog Dash, which I think undersells what a family coaster can be. Now don't get me wrong, I really like Slinky Dog, and in a land at the scope of Toy Story Land, it exceeds expectations. What looks like a kiddie coaster is actually really fun for everyone. But I think if Disney's initiative here really is bigger and bolder, a Slinky Dog Dash level coaster is not enough. It needs to be more innovative, more story-driven, and hopefully feature animatronics. Kinda like Hiccup's Wing Gliders at Epic Universe, which at 40 inches is very much in the family coaster realm, and it delivers a thrilling, innovative experience with fun surprises and story beats that a lot of guests can enjoy. And if the Emperor's New Groove Coaster has a pull-the-lever Kronk moment, that would mean a drop track like Hagrid's. I really think just because this would have a lower height requirement doesn't prevent it from having the potential of being an all-time great coaster. And with how popular Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Slinky Dog Dash continue to be many years after they debuted, it's smart. So a family coaster isn't a reason to freak out just yet. But the coaster isn't the ride that matters most. This one is, the Maleficent Indoor Boat Ride. This would be the make or break attraction. Magic Kingdom's biggest expansion ever needs to be anchored by its biggest attraction ever. And Taylor says this will be on the level of Rise of the Resistance or Radiator Springs Racers, using a similar rotating boat ride system to the Shanghai Disneyland Pirates of the Caribbean ride. That system finally coming to Disney World would be huge. This needs to be the type of ride you plan your vacation around, and critically the type of ride that Disney can reliably sell Lightning Lane single passes for and make it feel like it's worth $15 to $30 to skip the line. A lot of the financial success of the land hinges on this. This rumor feels right, and it actually tracks with recent permits just filed in the last week that show the show building for this ride increasing in size. I'm excited with one big concern. This can be the Maleficent ride, but shouldn't just be the Maleficent ride. Yes, Maleficent is arguably Disney's most iconic, most popular villain, and anchoring a ride around her makes sense. A massive dragon animatronic would be a showstopper moment. And setting it in her castle on the Forbidden Mountain makes a natural weenie and icon for the land. But this shouldn't be just a Maleficent solo ride. If bigger and bolder is the directive, having a signature ride themed around one character feels too small in scope. This needs to be a villains team-up ride that explains the entire premise of the land. And my pitch would be that Maleficent is the star and featured heavily in the ride. She casts a spell to summon every Disney villain you can think of, and the ride gives us moments with a lot of them in animatronic form. Now, does that sound, at least in premise, similar to Monsters Unchained? Yeah, kinda. But that ride absolutely rips, and there's a reason why team-ups are a popular genre. I really hope Disney doesn't shy away from trying their take on this monster mashup ride, because I think they can make something that is distinctly their own. Using the Shanghai Pirates ride system is a big differentiator already. The promise of Villains Land is all the villains in one place. This is the ride where it needs to happen. Anything less would be a disappointment in my book. Now, the rest of the lineup is mostly good news, with one exception. There's a dinner show that's now apparently starring Hades. And hey, like I reported in my Future of Animatronics video, Disney has called out Hades as a character that would be great for next generation audio animatronics. Those feature real-time front projection technology. Disney filed a patent about how this type of animatronic could actually interact with and talk to guests, which I break down in a lot more detail in that video. A dinner show with a Hades animatronic sounds like a blast, and that fits in line with what Disney's already doing, like adding the Olaf animatronic to the drawing classes. Like we say on this show, everything's better with animatronics, especially in dining spaces. I'm all for this one. Taylor also said that the land's entertainment will feature walk-around characters that will emulate the success of Igor, who's gone viral at Epic Universe for really funny improvised interactions with guests. But what this article doesn't mention is that Disney's already doing this. And I saw this in action on the Disney Destiny. That ship is all about interactive character moments, many of them with villains like Cruella, Maleficent, and Loki. Disney calls them meet and plays rather than meet and greets, where a story moment happens and you have a chance to interact with that villain. This could be the secret sauce that makes fans love the land. Character interactions are some of the most popular guest experiences, and I really think that this type of interactive, slightly spontaneous experience through character actors and possibly animatronics is the future of themed entertainment. The Destiny proves that Disney's already thinking along those lines, and I expect to see this more in the parks too, especially at Villains Land. And another bit of good news, Disney is expanding the ride lineup with a third ride, which understandably is a flat ride. I'm all for that. A flat ride is smart to add capacity and something for the smallest kids to do. Except it's an Ursula spinner, and just no. Please, no. Like in a vacuum, this is a fine idea. Spinners are popular, kinetic, Ursula has tentacles, fine. But Magic Kingdom already has 3 spinners, Magic Carpets, Astro Orbiter, and Double Dumbo. The other parks have a total of 0 spinners now. Adding another spinner to a park that already feels kinda close to Oops All Spinners makes no sense to me. Give me anything else. An Aquatopia-style ride, or Ursula's Choo Choo Train, or a ride that's just a 30-minute wait to have Ursula turn me into one of those withered, poor, unfortunate soul shrimp people. Literally anything but a spinner. A spinner doesn't fit the bigger and bolder directive. This one smells fishy to me. So my bold prediction that's guaranteed to be true or your money back, this one isn't happening. Maybe that's just hopeful thinking on my part. But here's my most important point, and this is what I said at the top that I think everyone is missing. There's a detail in the wrap report that I think is the most important line in the entire article, and almost nobody is talking about it. According to the article, Josh D'Amaro told Imagineers just before the holidays to rethink their plans. These are all very recent developments. The overall bones of the plan are still there, so they aren't starting from scratch. But here's the key detail. Imagineers are working against the clock to get their pitch ready to present to the board in a couple of weeks. Now, Drew Taylor has a great track record, like right after D23 2024, where he reported that Monstropolis was going to be replacing Muppet Vision several weeks before Disney confirmed it. He's well sourced, and I trust that he's reporting what he's hearing from people inside Disney. But even if everything in this article is 100% true, all it's describing is plans for a pitch, not a greenlit direction. All that's confirmed is that Disney is working on these ideas, which is very different than finalized plans. Everything is shifting, even the permits are changing from January to February. Nothing is locked. This is my gut. The whole article feels to me like it's a trial balloon. Not that this is exactly what Disney is planning for sure, but it's one of a few directions that's competing for viability. Look, the stakes are high, and Imagineers are so focused on creating something that fans will love that they are digging up old forum posts about Dark Kingdom, the theoretical villains-only theme park that was a very popular dream project among fans in the early 2000s. To me, the sources quoted in the article sound like they're from people who believe in D'Amaro's ambitions and want this project to succeed. So leaking these details could be a way to test the waters before committing billions of dollars in any certain direction. And D'Amaro understands the power of optics probably better than any Disney CEO of the modern era. He knows the value of a D23 stage presentation. Think about the power of under-promising and over-delivering. Having plans leak about a Slinky Dog level roller coaster or a Maleficent ride are useful if you want to create a mic drop moment where you reveal the plans are even more ambitious. Like, and this ride doesn't feature just one villain, it features all of them. And even if the plans are greenlit exactly as described, Disney's plans are constantly shifting. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train wasn't part of the original announcement for New Fantasyland. With Galaxy's Edge, a dinner show and a third ride were ultimately cut. It sounds like we are in a scenario where they learn from Galaxy's Edge and want to deliver more than what they originally promised, not less. So if Disney really is listening, here's what I hope they build. A Villain's Land that's Berk level in scale and completeness. Not just rides, but a full world you want to spend time in. A tone that threads the needle, mysterious and spooky at the surface, with pockets that go genuinely dark and mysterious for those who seek them out. It should feel at home to both Cruella and Chernobog. A family coaster that's story-driven and innovative, with more tricks up its sleeve than just the pull the lever moment, as great as that will be. The villain team-up boat ride. Maleficent is the star, but a cast of major villains each get their moment to shine. Make it the ride you plan a vacation around. Hades hosting a dinner with innovative and interactive next-gen animatronics. And for the love of Hades, not another spinner. Imagineering's big pitch hits the board in a matter of weeks. D23 is later this year. And if Disney really is watching fan reaction to figure out what people want, tell them. Drop your take in the comments. What do you want Villain's Land to be? And if you want my full analysis on stories like this every week, I break it all down in my free newsletter, The Tip Board. Link below. I think D23 is gonna be fun this year. This has been James Grosh from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see ya in the future.